Put everything to the cloud. All right. So some, real estate deals over here. Boy, to start off that first one, it's this top one over here called the 1911. This one is one that we first joined the mastermind, the MIH Mastermind back in February is when our class started of 2022. But when we first joined, Marco, even before that, started introducing us to some of the different members, right? Like, before any of you guys got in, he'll start introducing everybody to you. And by November, so 3 months before that, I already started talking to different people. And one of the couples that I talked to was Zhao Feng and Doug out of Oakland. And they're part of the MIH. They joined sometime in either the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021. So they were about 6 months to a year in. And when I first chatted with them, I was just asking them where they were. And they were like, "Oh, I'm out of Oakland." I was like, "Oakland, that's where I grew up." And I was like, "Oh, and where do you guys live?" They told me where they live. I said, "Oh, that's where I used to go. You live in a nice neighborhood. I used to go there to cut school all the time." You know? Because the cops don't go over there to look at the good kids. And I started talking to them a little bit more. And after two conversations with Zhao Feng and Doug, they had a deal that they posted that was pretty much already about to close. And one of their KPs backed out. So they put it in the MIH chat. And I was on my way to Pismo Beach. Okay. It was December 30th, right? And the reason why I knew it was December 30th is because the following day, the 31st, was when I funded the deal to get the cost seg for 2021. And when they posted that message, I told Helen, I was like, "Hey, do you want to get into this?" And she's like, "Well, do we know these people?" I said, "I've chatted with them twice and I know where they live in Oakland." I said, "That's where we grew up." I said, "We know where they are." And so we asked around a few people. They're like, "Yeah, they're legit." And the people that were in the group, we started looking at them online. They were legit as well. So we said, "Let's do it." And this deal over here, we closed on it about a month later. It's a 56 unit directly across from Baylor University. Like, we're talking about across the street. Okay, if you look this up, it's called the 1911 over in Waco. And from there, I asked them initially, I said, "How did you find a deal?" So finding a deal is part of it, right? And a lot of times, remember Hadar talks about driving for dollars. Doug and Sao Feng, they wanted to be in this part of Texas because they realized, well, Dallas was very saturated, right? So they went over to Waco. And literally, this guy, Doug still had a picture of it. The guy who was selling this had a big banner, like a 4 foot by 8 foot banner that says, "For sale, call this number." It wasn't on any listing, no brokers involved. That was it. He called them, sealed the deal. After he closed on the deal, brokers called Doug and was like, "How in the world did you get this deal?" They didn't know. No one knew about it, right? And when we closed on it, a couple months later, this deal on the bottom right is literally about a block away. You can stand on the stairs of this building at 1911 and see this building about a block away. The broker called us, and now this is a 96 unit. And we pretty much established the same team from the 56, rolled it right over to the 96, added a couple more capital raisers, and closed this deal within about 6 months. Right. Now, one thing that we did learn between those two deals is, boy, third party management Good ones are hard to find, right?
Mhm.
Those of you who have dealt with third-party management, man, they're hard to find. And we've gone over two, maybe, oh, we're on the fourth one, I believe. Property manager
Oh, you're on the
since
fourth one,
we're
Alex?
on the
Okay, that's
fourth
pretty
one
cool.
already. Yeah,
Wow.
we're on the fourth one. And so far, this fourth one has been on it. We're now working with the fourth one in terms of we hired our team hired a VA specifically to handle the marketing. And I'm sharing with Doug and Zhao Fang what we're doing in terms of marketing to boost up to make it more marketable, right? And we're working with the property management that way because we realize we have to take some of the marketing in-house. Okay. But those deals are cash flowing, going great. Um, this deal over here is 100 and it was built in 1920s, 19 either 1908 or 1920s, downtown Indianapolis. Justin found this deal right here, 8 unit. We went to tour this property right before Cincinnati. This is our second time, and everything is rented except for 1 unit. Cash flow's great as well. These next two over here, we'll circle back to the 6449. These two over here is with Wyatt. This one up here is a 36 unit syndication. And then the owner next door, he also owns the one next door, but he held on to that 18 unit for about a year and a half until earlier, late last year, we bought that other 18 unit from him. So we own all three now, all three 18 units, 54 units total. So we 36 unit syndication and 18 unit JV went smooth. The power of in-house management right here, where Wyatt in-house management this, he has his own management team in Lincoln and Omaha. And then this is a 12 unit that in-house management as well. This one here, this 8 unit went really well because Justin has Luigi. He brought Luigi onto the team, and Luigi actually stayed at one of the units. He like rotated around while they were being renovated. So he was on site making sure everything was getting done. He'll fly back and forth. And this one, the Trenton house over here, the bottom right, is another 27 unit. Brandon Wells is the property manager on here. He managed this property, Brandon Wells, part of MIH, ever since 2019, I believe. So he knows all the ins and outs, all the maintenance guys. And when the owner wanted to sell, he's like, yep, I know a team that would like to take this on. And he himself is invested, and this one's going well right here. The 6449 was a complete 17 unit gut job. And it was gutted from the beginning. And from there, I mean, it's purchased in a phenomenal neighborhood. The thing is that the repairs and all the build out of all the plumbing and electrical took longer than expected. And then, right as we were about to start to cash flow well, there was a leak. A pipe bursted and or a pipe got stuck and toilet water and everything got backed up into the first floor of the building. We had to completely gut the floors, the walls, and everything. It turned out to be a $60,000 job.
Mm.
Okay. That was not expected. Now, from here, this is the one where you should check your insurance because we didn't know when there was flood, they didn't cover like plumbing backups like that. So our plumbing backup was only 10,000. And this is a $60,000 job. Well, so the insurance paid out 10 grand. Then later discovery, we found out that right where the pipe was that was stuck was on the city side. So now the city, we have to get that other $50,000 back from the city. And the city takes freaking forever to get reimbursed from them. So now we have to take money out of our own pockets and not get cash flow. The only way to make this deal work really well is once everything settles down and when the market does great, we end up selling it. That's the way to exit this one because we have so much equity built into this deal. You know, it's phenomenal. But that's something we have to, pay attention to. We immediately increase, and it wasn't even, from that 10,000 plumbing back up to 100,000 and only added like very minimal numbers to our insurance. But because stuff like that don't happen all the time. But when it happens, it sucks.
And
So
Alex, if you don't mind me saying something real quick, because I think this is a super important point with what you're saying about your particular deals that you're in. You are seeing a wide variety of property management experiences that Alex has described, and all of them are equally important to the function of the property. Alex said he was on one of the projects, the fourth property manager. I mean, that's a lot, but that's what you have to do. You have to churn through these people to make sure that you're getting the operational efficiencies that you need from your property manager. Another one, I know Wyatt self-manages all of his properties because his company is vertically integrated. That's huge. They basically own a block in Omaha. Is that right, Alex? I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
yeah. And so that vertical integration that you have with self-management is so key and so important. I think even a better scenario is partnering with the current property manager in the last property that you had. He knows that building like the back of his hand. So bring him in as an equity partner if he's interested or she's interested. And that's such a good way to enter a property and kind of have that security to know that the property will be taken care of
Yeah.
properly.
On top of that, this one right here, the 6449. So DJ, the property manager that you see
Yeah.
us working with now, he
Yep.
took over property management because the prior property manager was charging ridiculous fees for like roof cleanups, gardening, landscaping work. We're like, where are these fees coming from? Right. And it just didn't make sense. But DJ, he's used to managing bigger properties that he's not part of, right? The 27 unit that you guys saw, he was a partner in that. Of course, he's going to manage it. But his other properties are much bigger. But because of the partnership with Jay, and he has pretty much done us a favor to start managing this property incorrectly. So I initially, when I started learning multifamily, didn't realize that, wow, yeah, you gotta buy right, you gotta finance right. But my God, if you don't manage the place right, it's over. It's over, right? And then we have this deal. Well, this is not exactly what it looks like, but it's an RV deal, right? Yin is part of this deal. Um, and it was Darren, Yin, Christina, and Eric will be on future deals, you know. So
It was fun getting the group together.
it's fun getting the group together, right? Initially, it's one of those when you push or when you talk about it, what you talk about, you bring about. Eric and I were literally talking about this maybe 4 months ago,
Hmm.
4 or 5
Yeah, that's
months
right.
ago. And we started talking about, damn, RV parks, my God, the amount of cash flow and depreciation. I talked to some people in GoBundance, and we started talking to Darren about it. And then within maybe a week or two,
Yeah.
Connor found the deal and was ready to wholesale it and was like, hey, Darren, you know some people, and Darren came to find us, and boom, that's how Yin and Christina got involved as well. And I would say that everyone on our JV team is very involved, very sharp. And this is a complete, like, this is a straight up JV. This one, there's no splits. You know, some of you might have, gotten into JV deals, and myself as well, where it's structured like a syndication, right? It's like an 80-20 split, and then there's this and that.
Yeah, that's not a JV deal.
Yeah, that's a small syndication, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's a straight up JV deal where, hey, what you put in is what your cut is going to be, and everybody's got to put in a lot of work, right? From the get-go, everyone was on top of things, getting all the financing right, making sure that you're hopping on the calls with the current property manager. We have a property manager that's on staff right now that, has been a little bit overwhelmed due to what the current owners are doing. And then we found out, we're like, hey, what do we need to do to get you to make life easier for you? Right. Then we realized there were things that were promised to her from the prior owner that was never, financial incentivizations that was never done. We're like, whoa.
Mm.
Okay. So she was like, I was ready to walk out. I'm like, oh no, don't walk out. Right. Here's what we can do for you. We're going to get you some help. We're going to hire a VA, a part-time VA to do the bookkeeping with you. Right. Eventually, we're going to pick up some of the marketing stuff. So we actually hired a VA that's going to be able to help out with the bookkeeping. And, I think it's going really well. It just shows you that a great team, when everybody is on point, it's very powerful. Very, very powerful. So that is the deals that we got into. Anyone has any questions on some of the things I've said so far?
And let me just point something else out too, Alex, too. With the JV structure, and some of you are in JVs, some of you are not in JVs. I actually do like JVs, although admittedly I am not in a JV deal right now. Sometimes, your JV partners, you really have to obviously clearly define your goals, your outcomes, and your responsibilities. Because sometimes some of the JV partners are not liquid all at the same time. That's not good, bad, or indifferent. That's just life. So as long as all the partners can come to an agreement of what everybody's roles, responsibilities, and financial or not financial responsibilities, depending on the deal, then a JV partnership can be a fantastic way to enter a deal because you're dealing with a less amount of people and you're dealing with a quality group of people. So to make decisions like that, I think it's just a fantastic model. And I know that this RV park in the Ozarks will do great because of the people on the team.
Yeah. I mean, it's Yin and Darren has already visited the site, right? And we know that, that the things that we've looked up, the research that we did, this is probably a more one of the more active deals that I'm going to be in. But on top
Sure.
of that, I've already told my VA team, I said, okay, there's certain things that we got to do for this. Like I got a VA right now already working on a brand new website, potential website. But I said, just put something together because we found a website that's a really good RV park. Phenomenal reviews. We like what they stand for and everything. And I said, we can look like that online. So I have one of my team members. I said, this is your number one priority. Work on it this week. And, having a team behind us is you can't you just
So
can't
key.
replace that.
Having a
Right.
reliable team that says they're going to do what they're going to do and does their job the way they say they're going to do it,
Right.
it's security. It's what it is.
Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything to add?
Alex, I had one question about the 1911 and your second 96 unit property.
Yeah.
What were some of the major issues and what was the breaking point when you actually fired your previous property management?
I think that part of it is the lack of communication. There were certain times where, like, one of the property managers didn't send us any, didn't even tell us that they were going to put on a charge that was anything less than 3,000. But didn't because but they were so far back on their bookkeeping, they didn't let us know until 2, 3 months later. And then we rolled back. We're like, what the hell? Where is this coming from? It was also like another one. It was expenses. Part of it was expenses. Part of it was the renewals. They didn't know what was going on. This is a college campus. This is not college housing, but a lot of college kids rent here.
Right. So
And
it's multiple issues that just added up.
oh yeah, multiple things. Like another one was during the wintertime. It was that one winter where Texas started icing up on the roads, right? And people kept running into the freaking gate, right? And the parking lot has so many spaces. Leave the gate open. It was like a $5,000 repair. It happened 2 to 3 times. I was like, leave the gate open.
Unbelievable.
I don't care.
Simple facts.
There's so much parking. Every time we're there, there's at least 50 to 60 parking spaces open because not every college student has cars because it's across the street.
Right.
Ridiculous. Like it's these things where you would imagine, Helen and I have conversations about this. Isn't that just common sense?
Yep.
And I said, it is for you and I. It is for you and I, but for a lot of people, you really have to spell it out for them. Right. And that is part of the deficiency in having a not very good third-party management. So
They
yeah.
have to have the ability to make decisions on the fly for the benefit of their client, which they should always be representing the client, which is the landlord or the owner of the building, right? If they can't come up with that simple fix, they just cost Alex and his team $15,000 because they had to repair the gate 5 times or 3 times at a
Unbelievable.
$5,000 a pop. I mean,
Ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
right? Just leave it open. It's a simple free fix.
Yeah. People to run into it every time. No one knows how to break in the snow. So
unbelievable.
Thank
Unbelievable.
you.
Of course. Emeka, what's up, man?
I think the ability to actually like walk and see the property is so important. Being the boots on the ground on my deal here, the things that I do, like I'm at the property at least a couple times a week, but like there's just things that I do that people do on the ground that you can't really put trust in someone else's hands, to say the least, because they're not going to look things thoroughly. So y'all did the right thing.
Yeah. You have to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with between except for these 2 deals, every one of these has some form of partner or partnerships involved in it. And even the RV space, that the couple that's living there, that family, they're employees, right? There's staff on there. So we have full control over it. And having that full control is so huge, is because you need that control in order to be able to operate it correctly. So I applaud others who are trying to do vertically integrated property management because I see how much of a value that is. I mean, I see it in my own marketing team, our VA team, right? Our in-house marketing team. Yeah, I can hire a marketing team, but to have an in-house team, you can't beat that. You just can't.
I agree, Alex. I mean, not that everybody wants to run out and start a property management company, but having an in-house team, it's all about maintaining control over the deal. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's establishing control and maintaining control for the length that you own the deal.
Yeah. And it's also the speed you look at things. How quickly can something get done?
Yes.
Right. You don't have to jump through multiple hoops, Yeah. So, yeah. All right, Eric, why don't you take over and talk about your deals?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this deal specifically because this is the first deal that I participated in as an LP. And for everyone who doesn't think that they can get into a deal or this, that, or the other, I'm here to tell you that that's not true. So honestly, what I did to get into this deal is I had sold one of my rental properties here in Michigan, and I put a portion of that into this deal. And I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, what's the easiest way to kind of experience this and really learn about what's good, what's bad, and kind of everything in between? So thinking about it, in September of 22, I thought to myself, all right, you know, there's no probably better team to race for if you're starting than Sharpline because they've been through so many things, right? And I thought, okay, if I want to race for them eventually, or if I want to attract capital to some of their deals, it would probably be a good idea if I experienced it on the other side as a limited partner. So that's exactly what I did. So what you see here is the first deal that I invested in. It is a 108 unit building in Kansas City, Kansas called University Villa Apartments that closed in September of 2022. And that was 3 months after I got into MIH. So this deal, one of the reasons that I liked it, or that kind of spoke to me, it's very close to a hospital. I'm in healthcare. So again, we all know what that means. There's a lot of traveling nurses, interns, residents that need good, affordable housing that's close to work. So that was one of the things that certainly attracted me to this particular property. Obviously, you know, back then as a newbie in the commercial space, I was like, all right, you know, it's better to go with someone who has a pretty darn good reputation in this. So there was a variety of factors that I chose to invest in this deal. Those, you know, the operational team was certainly one of them, right? So this particular deal, it did close on time. They promised immediate distributions, and we closed at the end of September. And by November 1st, I had my first distribution. And the distribution, in terms of dollar amounts, I mean, it was, you know, a couple $100. It's not going to necessarily move the needle, to be honest, either way. But doing that first deal does. Right. Since then, you know, in terms of operational efficiencies and adjusting to the market economy, they've had to reduce that distribution, which is not a big deal whatsoever. Things happen where you have to obviously reduce distributions or stop them altogether because of unexpected things that happen. For instance, when Alex was saying in one of his buildings about the pipe bursting, and that's a $60,000 fix. Okay, I mean, you have CapEx, you have your reserves and maintenance, but sometimes, you know, you need it depending on the amount of the repair or the amount of the event, you know, that's going to be a little bit more challenging, right? So again, I've speaking from an LP on the investor side in this deal, it's been nothing but what they said it was going to be. They followed through. It's been clear communication. For those of you who have not invested in a Sharpline deal before, their communication is stellar. You get a text message, an email, distributions are coming on this day, boom, 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 boom. It's very systematic. It's very organized. And I'm pretty pleased with that, which is obviously why I decided to continue to race for them in future deals. So this property at one time last year had 16 vacancies. Okay. And you think, okay, we have 108 units, 16 vacancies. That's not a lot, but it is because if you're not used to operating the building with 16 vacancies, then that can certainly be an issue for some people, right? So then, as we all know, and I think we all know the ending to this story, Marco got on the marketing. And they had it filled within 45 days, all 16 vacancies. So very, very good. They went through a property management struggle there too. So it's literally in every deal that you're going to have to deal with an issue in the property management or your boots on the ground if you are not physically the boots on the ground there. So again, I can't say enough positive things about the experience. We're prepared for a refi next year, which will be great. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it is I mean, I hate to say this, but it is a run-of-the-mill kind of vanilla apartment deal that is I'm very, very happy with. Someone told me one time, and I've always held this to be true. Your investments should be boring and not sexy. And I love this investment because it does exactly what was promised to me. And that's what you want as an investor, right? You want the security of someone obviously keeping their word and following through on their actions. So,
That's
does anybody
awesome.
have any questions for me about this particular property?
Eric, I
And
think
just so
it's
everybody knows, there were other MIH members that also participated in this deal as well.
yeah, I think it's an excellent way to get in as an LP because you're learn. I mean, with a team like Sharpline, from what I've heard from other MIH members, they communicate very well, and you
They do.
can really pick up a lot of the things they're doing and implement it into your own deals when you let's quote unquote graduate to the next level when you're in a JV or something else. So yeah, I think that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and you know, here's the thing. Like, I know, just like we all know, right? Because you should have this relationship with who you're, partnering with. I can pick up a phone or text or call them whenever I want and say, "Hey, I got a question in this." I can guarantee you that it's going to be answered. I'm not saying within the hour, but by that same day. So, and that's also reassuring as well, because there's a lot of things going on right now specifically in the multifamily space, as well as commercial in general, where that's not exactly the case with some of these deals.
Awesome. Awesome.
Mecca, do you have a question, or was that the question from Alex?
Since you still got your hand up, Mecca.
I just got my hand up. Sorry, I'll take
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to make sure I was addressing it.
All right. Well, these are a couple of deals that we raised for. So, Eric, want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So this first deal on the left here, this 72 unit Class A new build, we closed on that in September of 2023. It is a sharp line deal. And what I liked about this, and what I think also Alex liked about this too, was it was an easy sell to the investors. It really wasn't even a sale. Like, hey, we have this property. It's a 2023 build. Here's the background story on it, right? The builder wanted to get rid of it. Sharpline bought it at a discount and at a very competitive price. It also helped that they had an identical 72 unit building literally across the street. And what I mean is it's literally across the street. It's a twin building almost. And they were already self-managing that. So you really answered a lot of questions with this property. One, what CapEx is it going to need if it's a new build? No, certainly you have to put in CapEx, obviously, but with a new build, it's not going to be certainly as much or as bloated of a budget that you'll need for this. Two, you have a track record with Sharpline. Three, they were self-managing the property across the street, and it was very easy for them to transition the staff, obviously, across the street because you're just literally rinsing and repeating from what you did across the street. So it was a very easy investment to raise for, because a lot of investors, shouldn't say a lot of investors, but some investors are a little shaky with the 1972 value add, doesn't look real modern on the outside kind of properties, right? So this was, again, very, very easy to get into. Our investors really were excited about it, and they continue to be excited about it. So distributions for this particular property were not going to be, I believe, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. I can't, were distributions going to be after 1 year for this particular
I believe
property?
so.
Yeah,
I
I think
believe
it was
so.
after 12 months. So again, so we're coming up on September of 23. I'm sorry, we closed on September of 23. We're coming up on September of 24. So I think once investors get some distributions from this too, that's also going to obviously strengthen the validity in their investment choice. But we couldn't be happier with this particular building, as the Springfield, Missouri area, which is about 2.5 hours away from Kansas City, is really kind of a booming area in the suburbs.
Yeah. And then on the right-hand side, that's the 40 unit
Hmm.
right there. And that one, you know, the biggest thing with that one is that was the third property, right? The 72, 72, and now the 40.
Yes.
It's already proven that it works. And the fact that they've already proved that it works, they were able to get the rents. It's a newer build, well, 2018 or I think it's a 2017,
I think it's
2018 build.
26. Yeah, it's 2016 or
16?
2017, Alex. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's still very new. And I asked, I hopped on the call with Chris Jackson. I asked him, I said, hey, so what needs to be done actually? He showed me some pictures of what needs to be done. It's pretty simple. And he said, because we're able to get it for so much less, it's pretty much cash flow day one. He's like, Marco keeps telling people it's cash flow day one. He's like, I just want you to know, we're not, it's although it's cash flow day one, we don't make distributions until usually 6 to 9 months in. I said,
Yeah.
that's fair. You got to build it up first, right? And he's like, yeah. So it's a phenomenal deal. Got a few investors in that, and it's seems like it's going really well.
Yeah, I
Communication
think they
with the
said 5 to 6
investors, great.
months for the first distribution, Alex, right?
Yeah.
So
So it's coming up.
so it's coming up. Yeah. So it's definitely coming up. So yeah, I agree with Alex. That was a very easy sell to the investors as well.
Yeah.
It was new, it was shiny, it was well taken care of. It looked good on the outside and the inside. It was very, very easy.
Yeah. So one of the before we get into this, one of the lessons that we learned, Eric, we pulled this picture up from
Oh
two
my
and a
gosh,
half
I'm
years ago.
inside. Yes. My
This was
God.
2022.
I
Was
think
it
you're right.
June? Was it June
I
or was
don't,
it
yeah, I don't
when was
remember.
that MIH meetup?
No, that was at MM5, I believe, wasn't it?
Oh, was this MM5?
I think so.
Okay, okay. This is the 2022 then.
Yeah,
MM5. You're right. You're right. You're right. One of the things that, we've learned is establishing trust with your team, right? You gotta build relationships with the people that you work with. That's one of the key things that we've learned. Um, if we
I-
didn't build the relationships, we wouldn't be where we are. There's no
right.
way.
And certainly Sharpline has a very great reputation for not only completing their 9 full cycle deals, but they have a great reputation for never having a capital call on any one of their deals. And openly and honestly communicating and being as transparent as possible with the status of their deals at all times.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that Eric talked about Marco getting into the like picking up on rents, how you got vacancies. I want to go back to the other deal that we had. This deal. See, this is
Mhm.
it going into it was like we knew it was going to be a gut job, but the amount of experience that I've gained from just this deal was phenomenal. One thing why we switched from the property manager before to DJ now, so it's a 17 unit, right? Complete gut, everything brand new. Okay. And we knew the rents from this place could be 975 to 1,000 per unit. And the property manager kept telling us, oh, people wouldn't go for 950, 975. So they rented out 2 or 3 units at like 925. And Jay and his wife was every meeting that we had, they were hopping on the phone, talking with getting the leads from apartments.com and this and that. And I can tell he was taking over the leasing. I said, what are we paying the property management for? I said, what are you actually doing in the leasing process? This is where I learned what leasing, like how the whole leasing thing worked, right? He's like, well, first we get the leads from apartments.com or renters or rent.com. And from there, we start responding and answering any questions. I was like, okay, so you answer questions. Do they call sometimes? He says, yes. I said, okay. I said, what happens after that? He says, then if they really like the apartment, then we will set up a meeting for them to go in and tour the apartment. I said, okay, great. What does it take? He says, well, we got to get a copy of their ID just to make sure they're who they are, right? Have them fill out some forms. I was like, okay, so that could be done. I said, we can figure that out. I said, what happens at the tour? Well, at the tour, we do this, this, and this. I said, does someone have to be there? This was during COVID, right? So people didn't need someone to be there. People were used to doing remote. I was like, okay, do you have a remote lock? He says, well, yeah, we have a lock that we can just change the code and da 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 da. I said, okay. I said, so do you need to call them while they're there? Not necessarily. I said, okay. I said, so what happens afterwards? Well, what happens afterwards if they like it? We call them, text them if they like it. And if they like it, we have them fill out the applications and then, do the background check and everything. I said, okay. I said, so you're telling me this can all be done remote? And he says, yes. So we can handle this virtually. He says, yes. I said, okay. I got my own executive assistant on this task. And I said, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I said, we need to rent this place out. Right? She hopped on a call with Jay. She learned the whole process. Not only because the property manager wasn't responding. We looked at her response time. It was terrible. Right? 24, 40 hours. 2 people are on to the next apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I said, during business hours, our response time needs to be under 15 minutes. Okay. My leads in our business is under 15 minutes. All right. I actually tell them 5, but we needed to be under 15. Because after that, people are on to the next person. Once they submit a lead, they're already looking. So what we did was we took over, got forwarded all the numbers from rentandapartments.com to my VA. Okay. For about 2 to 3 weeks, she cranked it out. Numbers got forwarded to her, text messages, Facebook. We took that over. And she was able to get people to send in their licenses, reset the code on the door. I did a voiceover video of the whole walkthrough of the whole apartment. So before they even got there, we sent that link to them. We have pictures of the outside, the inside, a map of the area, a whole walkthrough of the place. So when they got there, it was already familiar to them. We took over the leasing, and within 3 weeks, we rented out all 17 at $975 or more. It was ridiculous. I said, I just needed to know the process. And Jay walked me through that whole process. I said, once I knew the process, it was game on. And once I knew it could be virtual, that was it. I was like, it's done. Right? So you gotta look at and really take a look at what your property managers are doing. Look at their response time, right? From the time that their lead came in from that specific number, when did they dial back or when did they respond? You got to audit these logs, because during business hours, if you say you're open, I want a response. And if you can't respond, I'm going to the next one. Right?
Yeah, so important, Alex. And that's the problem that most property managers run into. Their efficient, their lack of efficiency and their slowness in terms of responding to a request. And really, if you don't have tenants in the building, I'm not sure how you're going to make money. So that's the number one thing. You got to be responsive as the property manager.
Right. Okay. Well, due diligence. Eric, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so important, obviously. I know this seems pretty obvious to all of us, but doing your own due diligence on the area. Somebody can tell you that the area is fantastic and it has 20% rent over rent growth, for the last 3 years. But it's important, if you do not know an area or you're unfamiliar with an area, to do your own due diligence on there and to come up with questions, because you need to have your questions answered, obviously, before either one, you purchase the property, or two, you invest in the property either passively or actively as part of a syndication or JV structure. So it is of some, it sometimes, if you're not used to doing the due diligence, it can be kind of a longer process at the start, but it's so important that that process actually gets done, right? Because if you don't do your own due diligence, buying a property in an area or that isn't great, or you have questions on or reservations on, I can tell you the outcome probably isn't going to be great.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. Know your numbers, right? You gotta know your numbers. When you talk to your investors, when you are, finding a deal, when you're JVing a deal, if you don't know your numbers, people aren't going to trust you, right? You should not be talking about a deal if you don't know the numbers of the deal, right? And we're not just talking about, IRR and returns and all that, but like, how are you coming up with these numbers? Like the biggest question you should ask others is, how did you come up with that? Don't just blindly trust it. How many times do we see, oh yeah, IRR is between 14 to 16%, right? Cash on cash is 8 to 10%, whatever that number might be. The question you have to then ask is how, right? Getting educated and knowing what these numbers are is huge. And then how do you protect yourself? Like, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? You know, and can that still work? Can the deal still work out if this, and this happens? Throw some worst case scenarios out there. Don't be afraid to ask worst case scenarios, you know? So
And
that's what I have
here's
to
the thing
say.
too, a lot of people do get hung up on the numbers when they have a question that a potential investor asks them that they can't answer. Then just simply tell your investor, right? Or tell your investor, look, I don't know the answer right now, but I will get back to you and find that answer out, and get back to them in a timely fashion. And usually the quicker the better. Now, if you're asking an operator that question, right, and they don't know the answer, they should come back with the same response. They should be ready to answer your question in a timely manner if they're double checking their numbers as well. So again, just because you don't know the answer right off the bat doesn't mean that that's a good or a bad thing. You just want to provide the information to whoever is asking you in as quick of a time as possible to answer their question and make sure that they're satisfied.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, so
Yep.
all the deals that we are in are performing to expectations with distributions paid out and no capital calls at all. And that's really the key thing, right? Is these deals that we're part of, that we're actively involved in, it's so key that yes, are there's hard work, there's bumps on the road, right? And as an investor, we have to look at that as sometimes you just got to expect it, you know. It's not always going to be easy, right? But in the long run, it's going to be worth it. It is hard
Yes.
work, especially when you're playing in a more of a JV role in it, right? It's like all hands
Yeah.
on deck.
Absolutely. And Alex is 100% right. If you are not willing to participate as an active participant in a JV deal or a GP structure, do not enter the deal,
Hmm.
because then it's going to be awkward for the rest of the partners. Then they're going to have talks with you. And I mean, like, that doesn't need to happen. Like, if you are committing yourself to seeing this through, then you're committing yourself to the time, effort, and work it's going to take to make the project successful, no matter what.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, 100%. 100%. Well, so what are we going to talk about next time? It's like to be determined.
Yes, it's to be determined. It's going to be, we have to come up with new topics, my friend.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Well, anyone has anything they want to share? Anything new that anyone has going on?
We're actually in the
Nothing.
process of lining up some potential guest speakers for the next couple months too. So that'll be good so that, you know, we don't have to listen to Alex and I talking all the time.
Hey, are y'all seeing much of a change in just the way renting is happening? I know here in Florida, we're starting to see a little bit slow, right? In Lakeland specifically, there's like a lot of supply, and there's a lot of supply in Florida in general as well. But we're starting to see A classes, coming down on price. We see almost a brand new build is being very competitive with like their 1 bed, 1 bath, and 2 bed, two bed, 1 bath, just because since there's so much supply, there's a lot of tenants that have control. So you're all seeing that the same of where y'all investments are?
I'll say areas that have been overly developed. A lot of the Phoenix, Dallas areas, as the new builds are coming on, they're trying to push rents, but if someone's looking at, okay, if let's just say a 1 bedroom, 1 bath in Dallas is say $1,500, brand new, spanking new, right? Even the A class that's been on for a couple, 2, 3 years now, if they charge the same thing, it's hard for them to compete, right? So it's going to push them down a little bit, and it's going to push the next people down, the B and C's even more. So we are seeing that in places that have had a lot of brand new ones coming on market that have been developed, but then also a lot of the developments have slowed down as well, right? They're trying to kind of slow that down process so that not all of them are coming on market at the same time. Depending on the area. In Cincinnati, we're definitely not seeing that because there hasn't been a lot of new builds in Cincinnati.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think the KC metro area is not experiencing that either,
Mhm.
to my knowledge. To my knowledge. Yeah, did you have a question, my friend?
Hey everyone. No, I don't have a question. I just want to say it's been um so fun listening to you guys share your stories, your journeys, and so insightful. We're just both David and I, we're so excited, so grateful to be a part of your lives, your journeys, the MIH family. Alex is such an amazing partner to work with, to learn from. So just want to say thank you for doing this, on Saturday mornings when I'm sure you all have families too. So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we're the ones that are grateful for you and David being part of the MIH family, to be honest. And I mean, it's been so great getting to know you in such a short amount of time, and we're all thankful for you and David.
100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. It is 7 a.m. in the Pacific. It's 10 a.m. in a lot of you guys' time. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your family, and we'll see you on the next call.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Good seeing you.
You didn't get a picture this time.
Oh, dang it. Let's do one. Eric just hopped off. I gotta get him back on.
Get it back on.
I think
Get
he
him
was the
back
only
on.
one that left, actually.
He's so Let me get him on. Let me get him on. Be like,
Hey, Emeka, I just sat on a like it was like a webinar from Jeff Adler. He's with one of the big brokerages, and he was talking about the oversupply. And I forgot what website he said. I'll look it up. But there's like Jacksonville's having a massive oversupply. Not a problem, but there's just a lot of things. And he had a perspective like it's okay. They will absorb into the market, and eventually, with given enough time, you will be able to go ahead up in rents. But anyway.
there you go.
Oh my gosh, so sorry, you guys.
All right. Those of us who can have our cameras on, let's do it. We'll take that picture in 3, 2, and 1. All right.
Awesome.
One more time. One more time. 3, 2, and 1. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
everyone.
We're hanging with everybody. It's always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
See you guys.
Always. We'll see you guys. Bye now.
Watch it. Bye.
Bye, guys.